Right, welcome back to another training vlog. Today we've got some lower body accessories and then I'm gonna run that straight into a treadmill interval session, but it's a little bit of a lower intensity one. Today we're in my beautiful workplace here at Strength Sanctuary in Stafford in Brizzy, as opposed to my home gym. So got a little bit more equipment afforded to me so I can get a bit creative with some of these movements. But yeah, not crazy heavy compounds or anything today, just focusing a lot more on unilateral work. So just trying to keep on top of some of these asymmetries that I have from all my surgeries and whatnot. So this first one, a bit more on the explosive side. We're gonna have a Smith machine box step up, but everything will be starting above box, getting that drive through, chasing that percussive sound, and we're actually looking for what we call a hip lock. So I'm trying to raise that opposite hip higher. So again, that's just trying to target that musculature that's going to help with all my running efficiency or my inefficiency that I'm trying to overcome. So yeah, we'll sort of build up. It's nothing heavy. It's all about just trying to get that neural pathway unlocked to more efficient running. Just tend to get some nerve locks in behind this calf. Sort of feel it run down the outside of my leg, sort of that sciatic nerve. So just trying to loosen that guy off without being too aggressive that it actually locks up even more. So now I'll actually take it through some dynamic range as well. So that nerve sort of comes all the way back up that back end of your butt cheek, so you can sort of find that spot and then just floss into it. And I'll sort of just hit that ITB ever so slightly, bit of VL as well, so outside quad. I'm ready to rip in. The other thing I love about the Smith machine variation of this is you obviously don't have to worry about the balancing component, and then being in that sort of barbell fixed position, you can sort of just get nice and upright with that naturally externally rotated position at the shoulders as well. But yeah, just being able to drive through that fixed plane means you can just focus on your maximal output. You don't have to worry about falling over, tripping, hurting yourself or anything like that. It's just a bit more of a plug and play option. So yeah, if you're working in an athletic context, do not let machines be a fear or that they're not fucking functional. Like, anything can be functional if it has a utility to get you the adaptation that you want. So keep following that. Yeah, all right, let's get into it. With my warm-ups for these type of things, I don't tend to stick to too much of a structured warm-up. Just feels like it's another thing to do. But again, that's coming from someone who's been training for, a decade and a half. So I've got a bit more of an intuition about what my body wants / needs. But if this is a habit that you're trying to create, or there's a fixed set of processes that you like to help ramp you up, by all means, follow something structured. But otherwise, yeah, some days I'll be feeling sweet, other days not so sweet, and just adapt accordingly. Again, not overly concerned about weight on these, so I'll bump these up a little bit, but ultimately these first couple of weeks, much like I have for all the other power-based sessions to start week 1 here, it's all about just getting that new feel of all these different movements, getting that bar speed, because coming from a space where I traditionally train a lot closer to sort of like absolute strength, so that bar speed's a lot slower. I'm not moving with as much intent. It's a lot more focused on load on the bar and simply performing the reps. So I'm not really concerned with the acceleration of the bar. So if it decells but I continue to move, we get the reps locked out, sweet, that's all we're focused on. But here, I'm actually concerned with how fast things are moving, and that's going to change week to week based on fatigue. So speed training is a good use, to measure where your fatigue is at as well. So, if all of a sudden you can objectively look at one video with the same load and you're moving significantly slower, then you know that you can moderate things to help keep you progressing without overtraining or leading to an exhaustive phase. There are certain apps that you can get. I've been toying around with a few. Haven't really found one that I've liked with velocity-based training. They sort of use your camera just to measure. They'll follow the tracking of the plate on the edge. So you've got to be pretty particular with where you film. Otherwise, you've got to sort of jump up a little bit. I think about the minimum spend is $500, and you buy like a little CPU that has a tether on it, and it just attaches to a strap on a Velcro end, and it will measure the bar velocity based on how fast that tether's moving. So you can get a little bit technical, but for the average person, even a $500 outlay for something like that, you know, you sort of got to pick your poison versus just giving it the good old eye test with the video side to side. So that's pretty much what I'm going to adopt here. It's all feeling good. Pretty happy with the bar speed of everything. I don't think I'm gonna look at altering the weight too much. Again, I'm not getting any extra added benefit out of, you know, moving any closer to failure. Keeping in mind that I've also got that treadmill session coming up after this. So yeah, you got to sort of pick your poison, pick your battles. And again, always remind yourself of what you're actually training for. What is that adaptation that you're after? And now that primary goal is sort of the 5K time, could be very wary that not eking into fatigue too much, but then also not being too scared to push. So it's a delicate balance, and you know, it's one that you can easily start to overthink. And I think myself being a coach as well, yeah, I can definitely fall into that trap of overthinking all the variables. Yeah, it's almost a gift and a curse once you start to crack open this box. So yeah, as long as you keep reminding yourself, keep it simple. Are we moving forward? Yes or no? Right, so now we're going to do some landmine RDLs. I've been liking this variation just from some of the loading patterns. So I'm able to actually drive my body weight back into the landmine attachment, which just helps stimulate sort of like my glute med, glute min, so the smaller muscles in my butt. And then that little bit of rotation as well, which obviously we need to be able to coordinate effectively for running efficiency. So from this position here, I'm just hinging over and then just snapping through. Make sure you're being quite active with that trail leg as well. A lot of the time I see people, they sort of just hinge over and that leg sort of just dangling, and you're gonna get a lot of rounding through that lower back. So be quite active there to get that arabesque. So over and pull. And I'll give you the delightful version too. See my derriere. So same again, trying to get that hip active, get a cross on it, push back into the bar this way. Another useful tip with these RDLs, because we're using the sleeve of the bar, obviously the sleeve's a lot thicker than, you know, the standard grip on the barbell. So you may want to use a strap just to help with your grip, because we don't want that to be the limiting factor. So all I do is put my hand through both of those, and then I'll just anchor that back across, and then I can sort of just be a lot more passive on everything there. Yeah. Sick. I'm trying to get the production up, brother. Yeah, just been fucking with these vlogs, man. That's why I wasn't too stressed about the YouTube side of things. I think I'm just gonna do that myself, bro, with this, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Again, keeping total volume pretty low. That'll be classed as a working set. I'll only run one more of those and just keep different exercise selections flowing. We'll do some isolative hamstring work, get a little bit more done in the calves, and some adductor work as well. There we go. Keep the height. Pull. Always something to improve on. Could just feel, and again, that's where all that injury was from. I could feel it compensating in the pull through my foot. So I want to make sure that I was just checking in with that hip positioning and just chasing that feedback in through the post chain. So I was actually using my post chain to create the pull, not a push sequence from everything on the anterior side. So yeah, all good lessons. Now this variation, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you probably haven't seen this bad boy before. It's actually something that I've utilized from a lot of Lucas Hardy's work, so Range of Strength. If you haven't checked him out on Instagram, I highly recommend it. Old school strong man movements and gymnastics. So I've utilized a drill that he uses for side split training. I just find it helps just open my adductors up, develop the strength that I need through adequate range of motion. So I want to be able to move laterally really well and promote that movement through my mid spine. I don't want to be too rigid there, particularly being a bit of a bigger guy. When we're focusing a lot more on upper body movements, we tend to get really rigid, tight with our traps, and we get stiff up here. So I want to stay nice and pliable, or as pliable as I can. So all we're looking to do, raise leg, turn out. You can play with internal and external rotation. That's going to help facilitate different ranges of motion at the bottom here. And then all we're doing is letting the weight do a lot of the work for us. So from here, I'm just looking for lateral flexion and turn back in to that leg that I've got raised. Again, if you haven't done these before, start very, very short. And you'll get hamstring as well. And then I tend to just hold that last rep a little bit longer. Go. Oh yeah. Yeah, it just feels nice to open up that tissue, those end ranges of motion. You know, it's just something that we don't normally get into through activities of daily living. Particularly sitting down a lot. That's one thing I find now that I'm moving into this online space of coaching a lot more, sitting down a lot more in front of a laptop for extended periods of time. To get really jacked up through my glutes, my lower back, and my groin. And I find anytime I facilitate the range and promotion of range in my groin, QLs, obliques, I start to feel a lot better. And you know, you supplement that in with all your running work and it just starts to build all its own momentum. So yeah, this is a really, really good variation. I love this guy. I think one of the best benefits of this movement as well, as you get through your sets, you just find you get into better and better positions. So yeah, I love doing this one before this next treadmill session. I've got some intervals today, but I have just been doing like a steady state variation. But now that I've sort of shifted that target to the 5K, you know, just pick that cadence up a little bit. So the intensity won't be as high as my true road interval sessions, but yeah, it's going to be a higher intensity than obviously a steady state incline run. So I'm going to decrease the incline and increase the speed a little bit. But yeah, I just find that this just helps open my hips up in a good way. Like I don't feel like it's in a strained position. And you start to learn the coupling of the breath as well. So I try and get like a bit of a softening of this position. I'm not trying to force anything down here. And see, I'm naturally starting to rotate out a little bit more. You can see I'm a lot tighter on this right-hand side. And it's not a great shock, considering this right limb has been so impacted by surgeries and all sorts of shit. And I just notice how much pressure comes off my TFL when I'm not forcing that external rotation. So letting everything sit in a little bit closer, I'm able to really pack down and shorten this rib cage. I find I get a lot more lateral flexion through that spine when I let everything internally rotate. So I think it's highly beneficial to expose that hip to external and internal rotation if you are going to play around with those. Why do I go up on a yoga block? It's simply just to take any limitations at the ankle out. Like if I just had that fixed there, it's probably just going to start to impact my ability and put a bit too much undue stress at my knee when I'm trying to crank forward. So just taking that ankle out of it, I find just puts all that focus back up onto that hip. It's just another joint that you're trying to take out of limitations. Alrighty, onto some hammy work. And then I know I did say I've got some calf accessories, but I actually tend to do those after my interval run. I just don't want that calf fatigue, knowing that's sort of a bit of a limiting factor in the efficiency of my running. I don't want to go overemphasizing that. So I think, and again, there's no real science behind this. This is more just psychology and personal preference. I get all this shit done on the treadie first, and then I'll sort of just top up at the end, and then I can sort of just maximize recovery and everything from there, because nothing on the lower body tomorrow. It's just an upper body only session, no running or anything. And that's after a full day off yesterday. So we can sort of get all this nice quality volume and moderate intensity in, freshen up again, and then we've got a big couple of days over that Friday and Sunday. Yeah, all right, bit of hammy work. So to finish off these hamstring accessories, we're just gonna hit some assisted Nordics. These are a notoriously weak position for me to be in. I tend to compensate a lot with my calves. All I'm looking to do is make sure I really control that end range of motion, or give my best effort to hit a concentric. So coming up, that's why I'm utilizing that band. I'm just finding now with some of that research that's coming out, that last sort of 30% of range is what's actually going to promote some hamstring hypertrophy to help get us stronger in these ranges of motion. Anything shorter than that, and apparently we're holding a lot more of that tension just in that hamstring tendon itself, not so much the lengthening of the hamstrings that last little bit. So something to be wary of is to train that end range of motion and get strong that last little bit. I've actually been utilizing this in a partnered setting a lot with my clients. So I'll sort of just kneel in front of them, encourage them to fall to me. So they won't be using a band, it's just body weight. And then I'll sort of nurse them into that lengthened position, and then they can sort of output as much as they can on that concentric, and I just facilitate that with some support. And it's been working wonders, even with some clients that have had full knee replacements and stuff. I've got them doing some concentric Nordics assisted, but yeah, it's phenomenal to see that little change in adaptation. So looking for lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Now I've got gas, 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 flight. Then I'm pulling hard as I can. Keeping volume pretty low on these bad boys. Don't need anything. I'm only going to do 2 of these. Lengthen, 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 lengthen. Pull, 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 pull. Oh. So only a couple sets of those, so literally 4 reps total, and I'll top that up just with some Swiss ball hamstring curls, just to facilitate a bit of neuromuscular adaptation. So getting that squeeze in the hamstring itself, just to continue to help develop that, because a lot of the times when you're doing something super stressful like this, we're not always utilizing the greatest potential of that muscle group, because it is a limiting factor, and that is it for me, for my hamstrings. So doing something a lot more regressed, like a Swiss ball hamstring curl, just allows me to double down on that contraction and allow everything to continue to progress without sort of putting too much load in other areas where I may be compensating. So just something to think about to top up. Just be like, you know, doing weighted chins and you feel like your scaps are limited to a certain degree. And then after you finish that weighted set, just do an extra set at body weight just to help facilitate everything and get that muscular control going. So as I was just saying, just gonna top these off with some Swiss ball hemi curls. Again, nothing crazy, set of like 6 to 10 and just facilitate that contraction. So make sure with these, we're trying to get that hip elevated first. We don't just want to be sagging down here. Trying to get that coordination of hips and height. So already I can just feel how much greater contraction I'm getting with those hamstrings. Again, the good part about the Swiss ball, sort of move a bit further down and really drag those heels in as well. And then you can also play with width, because we all get different activation depending on the width of our legs. Beautiful. I can really feel at that end range there how much more I'm getting those hamstrings to sort of fire up in that shortened range, because again, it's completely different portion of the hamstring that we're training, because we're at length here on the Nordic and then we're short on the curl. So yeah, you're just getting multiple looks, get that profile up, and I can feel how much more my right hamstring is compensating, because I've had a hamstring tendon graft on this side and I've torn that hamstring as well. So yeah, there's always something to improve on. And again, you can definitely go down the rabbit hole of trying to fix all these asymmetries too much, to the point where you're sort of afraid to train certain things. And I don't think that's a good place to be in either. My biggest advice, especially someone who's coached in the space, is to understand the limitations, but don't be afraid to push for improvement. You know, you should never let something of any great change, be it through an injury, limit you from what you think you're able to overcome after that. You know, if I told my surgeons who did my ankle reconstruction the things I've done now, I think they would be blown away. You know, my strength profile, you know, squat full range, I run 100 miles, like yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. Be aware of your limitations, but don't let them stop you from pursuing improvements. Anyway, getting a bit rambly, but let's get changed and we'll get into this interval session. All right, so we're into the treadmill workout now, just a 10-minute warm up, of a few like 30-second sort of build-ups onto that, and then we're into 6 2-minute intervals with a little bit of incline, so 6 to 8% incline with 2 minutes recovery at flat. Then just got some pickups after that, 5 20-second pickups with like 90-second walk recovery, and that'll really just sort of double down like, yeah, strides. All right, we're into the running portion of the workout now. We got 10-minute warm up, and then we'll get into some 2-minute intervals at 6 to 8% grade incline. Just looking to shorten that stride length. Obviously being on the treadmill as well is going to reduce that impact. So yeah, it's a good way to sort of get that weekly volume in, but it's not going to be crazy hard to recover from. And then just finish with 5 20-second strides. So again, just get that neuromuscular adaptation. I'm trying to get that cadence high and get used to get my turnover better. Alrighty, let's get into it. One handy little thing I've been utilizing just off the Garmin is just the cadence feature on this guy. So typically I've been sitting up around 165, and that's just way too inefficient. So already in the week that I've just been drawing attention to it, I've managed to naturally get this up closer to 170. So I'm sitting at 170, nice and easy here at a pace of, you know, it's only 6 14-minute K, so not hard at all. So next we'll get through some pickups. So we just got 30 seconds at like a 5K pace, but that'll all still be at just a 0, no incline yet. Back to a cruise. It's the trouble with these older treadmills, you just don't really have a means to decel very effectively, so I just find it's easier just to jump off and adjust it. Right, about halfway through these first 2-minute intervals now. Settled into a good rhythm, figured out what I needed on the treadmill as far as settings go. Yeah, nailing everything heart rate wise, so yeah. I'll bump up this incline. It's been holding that at 6 and getting that speed up. I've only had to have this at like a 527 per K, and that's just keeping me right in the middle of that aerobic threshold. Hips and everything are feeling really good after this session beforehand. I feel like I'm really primed for this. We got it. All right, so the 2-minute intervals are done. As you can see, all these beautiful plants in here. It is so fucking hot. I'm just gonna ditch that music, switch off for a bit. But yeah, 20 seconds on, got like 90 seconds off or something, and we're trying to hook this up so we're on a 10% grade. That didn't look like 90, did it? All right, we can crank more. Cool. All right, last one. Let's finish this shit.
Recovery completed 130.
cruise things now. Bring that pace right back, obviously. We'll just chill for 10 minutes, but I won't bore you with the rest of it. So thanks for joining today's workout. Bit of everything in there, and catch you at the next one.